A real dream lover. The golden youth called lover, a fairy tale. Long ago, before our time, there lived a maiden alone. She was alone because the great plague had taken almost every soul she had ever known. At the edge of the great ancient forest stood her little wooden house. She lived on hen's eggs and garden stuff, for that was all she could manage by herself. She wore her dead mother's clothing and worked with her dead father's garden tools. At last she grew old enough to think of being wed, and lamented in her heart, for there were no young men about at all. And she was very handsome indeed. Her hair was raven black, her skin was fair like porcelain, and her eyes a very deep blue. Forgetting the great god in her haste and sorrow, she set about a plan of her own devising. On the next moonlit night, she stood naked before her own door, on the little path, holding a red rose in one hand and a white rose in the other. She called out, "Friend," perhaps I missed this, and she actually said fiend, "make me a man for my own." After waiting around a bit there, she put on her linen chemise again and went into bed and to sleep. Perhaps she added a small blood sacrifice, like from a pricked finger. The next morning she arose and went out her own door. A small person, about as big as a 6-year-old boy, dressed in black like a clerk, sat cross-legged before her on the ground. He had a strange, tall, pointed hat. Beyond him, asleep on the sweet grass, lay a golden youth of surpassing beauty. Hair of fine, full, curly gold, most likely blue eyes, for he was asleep. Tall and shapely he was, dressed in a linen shirt and green corduroy breeches. The small person spoke up and said, "You may have this fine fellow for your own true love, but there is a dreadful rule. You must never name him a human name or call him by such, or he will cease to be. You must call him only lover." Our maiden felt that this was easily done and hastily agreed to the deal. There followed many years of happiness and love, for he was exceedingly pleasant in manner and speech and a good gardener. But there were no children, because lover was only a dream solidified. After some time, she began to think of him as Henry, but only in her heart. Then one day, needing his help catching a hen or something like that, it was an accident, she called out, "Henry, I need you." It was over in a second. The golden youth was nowhere to be found. Many moons and years passed, and she thought of her foolish bargain much. She turned her heart at last to the great God after much consideration, and became wise, if somewhat older. In time, a tired human man, who was also a survivor of the plague, found her, and they were married, and they lived a normal, loving life with 5 or 6 children. I'm not sure how many, but she kept a big yellow tomcat whom she named Lover for some reason. I don't know what it means either. The end.